I mean, how is culinary school structured? What do you do in a program? Is there like a general template in terms of how long you study and what you study?
So every culinary school has their own program.
Okay.
I knew what I wanted to get myself into. I knew that I didn't want to spend more than a year. Um, right. In terms of cost, I knew like what the cost should be like.
Okay.
Yes, the one which I'm in is definitely one of the more expensive ones,
Yeah.
right? But it hit all the other aspects for me. Like, it's a very focused program.
Yeah.
It's a short program because it worked for me. If I
Yeah.
was in my earlier stages, I would have
Yeah.
taken a longer program.
Got it.
Something which was maybe over 2 years because I could afford to spend that much time in
True.
that program.
True.
Um, so yeah, like my structure in school. So my course is the Grand Diploma. The Grand Diploma course is basically where I do both the cuisine and French cuisine and French pastry side by side,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So people in my school, they can either do French cuisine or they can either do French pastry.
Yeah.
It will still be, and it's a 9 month course, right? So they can do either French pastry for 9 months, either French cuisine for 9 months. I'm doing both of them within 9 months.
Oh wow. Okay.
So for me, my program is very intense because I am in school 5 to 6 days a week.
Okay.
My timings are probably from 8 to 2 or maybe from 11 to 9,
Wow.
depending on the day.
Yeah.
Um, so there are like 9 months are broken into 3 semesters. That is
Okay.
basic, intermediate, and superior.
Okay.
Uh, Currently, I'm in intermediate.
Okay.
So the basic one was basically like it's French cuisine and French basics. So they teach you like the basics of everything.
Got it.
And I'm sure the basics of any culinary school is wherein they teach you how to cut your vegetables. Actually, no, before cutting is how to clean your vegetables, how to
Sure.
peel them, and how to
Sure.
cut.
Okay.
And with all of that, you learn about sanitization, which is a very, very important thing,
Yeah.
right? As you said, like you have to learn how to keep your place clean,
Yeah.
and that is one of the biggest important things. So basics was basically that, and of
Yeah.
course, you learn a lot of recipes both in cuisine and pastry,
Okay.
and you learn a lot of cuisines that are very like home cuisines to a lot of French people or
Nice.
in the city of France. Like uh, you learn the chicken supreme, let's say, then you learn like the soups, the vegetable soup, you learn the uh, cauliflower soup, then you learn into the stews, which are very homely meals.
Got it.
Like people in their household with what the ingredients they have, how do they cook it?
Got it.
Very, very. I'm sure everybody must have seen Ratatouille, the movie, where the small the rat is just making ratatouille.
Yeah.
What they show is a very fine dining version of what it actually is.
Yeah.
What it actually is basically like a vegetable stew, and whatever vegetables you grow in your garden, right? By the end of it, what do you do with them,
Yeah.
right? And it turns back very much to Indian culture, right? What all we have, what do we do with it?
Yeah.
Right? And so you should turn back to the time, like in those days and age, they didn't have place to store. Like they didn't have refrigerators. They didn't really have a lot of places to keep something for a longer time.
Yeah.
So it is as organic as it gets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everything has a shelf life, and during that time, the shelf life is as organic as it is. So before it went bad, what do you do? And that's how
Yeah.
Ratatouille is, right? It's a very classic home cooked meal.
Yeah. It's one of my
Uh,
favorite films. It's
yeah, and
so
I mean, of course, there have been many films, and those are one of the films that also inspired me, along with a lot of people that also inspired me as well.
yeah.
Um, and
So
then,
yeah, so in the intermediate and senior, like you're probably going much more into depth into terms of like I feel like they set up the foundation and the basic, and then
mhm,
is that normally how most hospitality programs? Because some people that will be listening to this, right, Jujhar,
mhm,
they're also probably curious or interested about the hospitality sector. So
mhm.
is a longer program also structured in the same way?
I'm sure everybody has to start off with basics because hospitality also. No, no. Now I'm in one part of it. I'm only in the culinary aspect of it, right?
Got
If you
it.
go into hospitality, I'm sure it's a much bigger program than many more things to it. And to be honest, I'm not so sure about it.
Got it.
So I can't
Okay,
really tell you.
that
But
makes
in terms
sense.
of culinary, I'm
Yeah,
sure this is how it starts up. And
perfect.
I'm very sure it's how it starts up.
Got it. Okay,
Um, everybody has to start off with the basics to know how you build out of it,
sure,
right?
sure.
So now in the intermediate and superior, intermediate is more in depth as to every part of France. Like you have the north, south, east, west, central.
Got it. Okay.
Again, my program is very much French. Like it's a very French focused. It
Okay.
is right. I'm sure if you go to other culinary programs, like, and I'm sure a lot of people will know George Brown as well, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm sure like those programs, even though the basics would be almost the same, right? I'm sure their influences would be different in terms of their culinary, like
Hmm.
what they teach in the school or what cuisines they teach. That's why they have like they also have their master's program, which is again a very in focused, in-depth program.
Hmm.
So they have a very in focus Italian cooking program or in-depth French pastry program.
This is George Brown in Toronto, right?
Yeah, Georgia. And like that, there are many like the Stratford, which is close to where you are.
Yeah.
Out in the west, also there's a couple of schools
Got it.
that do it. So and this is what intermediate is. So it's a very in-depth focus as to the particular regions of France. What are their influences of, right? So wine is a very big thing. Wine and cheese is a very big thing in France.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the the French are like one of the biggest producers of cheese in the world,
Interesting.
right?
Okay.
And they have more than 3,000 types of cheese.
Wow.
So then you have to learn as to how it is made, like wine, especially, right? You if you go into a sommelier's class, you learn in depth as to how a wine is made,
Hmm.
and that is there is so many aspects to how wine is made, right? It's from the soil that you grow, which type of seed you put, what water, what is the weather conditions, when do you pluck out those grapes, when how do you season, like how do you work those grapes? Uh, so there, and then superior from what I've heard is like it is what modernistic French cuisine is like.
Okay. What it is today, like in terms of
Yeah,
like pushing
like
the
yeah,
boundaries, right?
yeah. So what you get into a these Michelin star restaurants, right?
Yeah.
When you go to Michelin star restaurants, you are paying dollars and dollars for a plate where they're serving like this much,
Yeah.
right? So they teach you into that, like what is it, what goes into that,
Got it.
what are the people might think is just a small piece, it's a small dish, but the amount of work that goes into presenting it perfectly is is a whole team behind it, and that's what people don't understand. Like you have you have a team of of course where you source your products, you have the sourcing team, then you have the team that comes up with the idea,
Hmm.
then you have the team that teaches you like how to prepare, like as I call mise en place, how do you prepare these ingredients, how do you uh, make sure when service is very rushed, how do you know like this is where it is kept, this is where I have to take it, this is where I have to keep
Hmm.
it, right? So these small things. Oh, well, snowstorm going on outside.
Oh.
Canada.
Yeah.
So that is what Superior is going to be like. And
Perfect.
in Superior, they give you a lot more like creative sort of. Uh, they give you a space for creativity, so they allow you to go with it.
Okay.
In basic, they want you. They teach you. They teach it down to the core. And intermediate, it's like a balance, right? They're like
Got it.
you can creatively you can be a bit like this dishes sort of remain the same, but how
Yeah.
you present it is a bit different. In superior they give you a bit more they give you a room to like experience and experiment,